All right, Gyi, you know I love wallowing in the muck of digital legal marketing. We also know, those long-standing listeners also know that you like it, although you pretend to be above it. So boy, oh boy, do we have a good story to tell. What is going on? Can you give the overview of Stanley Law versus Social Media LLC?
X Social Media LLC. So this is just allegations. We don't know anything about this in depth. This is just posted on LinkedIn, and I looked at the complaint. So keep big grain of salt with all this, but I do think there are a lot of lessons here. So I'm looking at Matthew Munson posted this on LinkedIn. Houston law firm sues marketing agency, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into the details of the people, but this law firm in Houston alleges that they were part of this unlike this traditional marketing campaign. They're in a co-counsel arrangement with a firm that would match the amount of marketing spend. This is just my impression from reading this post. Essentially, this marketing agency was partnered with a firm in DC that allows for non-lawyer ownership of law firms, right? So there's an ABS, alternative business structure component to this. But short version is that the allegation seems like it's, hey, this marketing agency and law firm didn't actually match the media, and in fact, potentially didn't even spend the media that they were supposed to spend for this law firm, and potentially were using dollars that were intended for this one campaign to fund the campaign of a different firm. So messy fraud allegations. And so the point of this is not just to muckrake here. The point is to talk to our audience about how to avoid this kind of situation. And we've talked about some of these issues in the past, but I think it's really important for lawyers to get a sense of like what they can do to protect themselves. And I'll go first, and then you can respond to this. But in this particular case, it goes back to what we were talking about at the outset, which is access to the platforms and the accounts that the media is being bought in my opinion. Because you can have a media authorization that says, hey, so-and-so is authorized to spend X dollars on my media. But if you don't have access to the platform, how else can you validate that the media was spent?
And what it was spent on. Yeah.
Right. I mean, even if you're not going to manage it day to day, because I know lawyers are sitting there being like, well, this is craziness. I don't have time to go and log into Google Ads and check the daily spend and all that. But the point is that if you needed to, you would be able to, right? If you needed, and maybe if you're at a point where you're like questioning it, you're like hiring somebody to take another look at it. But without access to that, I don't see how you could ever do the trust but verify thing without access to the actual accounts that it's being spent in. And by the way, this brings up, we've talked about this a lot. There are competitor agencies in our space, forgetting about this lawsuit in particular, that they do that. They're like, it's not your account and you don't have access to it.
Would you like to name anybody, Gyi?
Longtime listeners could already know that they can go back and listen to old episodes where this has been discussed. And again, my point here isn't to drag people through the mud. This comes up more often than lawyers would like to admit, right? And that's the other thing too that we hear all the time is, the lawyers, they don't want to talk about it because they're like, yeah, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one thing. What else can they do to protect themselves from this kind of situation, you think?
Well, we have an interesting conversation in our mastermind just last Thursday. And this call, it's the same thing, but this was with LSAs. I mean, this right here was a non-branded kind of behind the scenes lead generation thing that seems to have gone poorly. You can read this. I mean, it literally says, operating X social media as a Ponzi scheme, commingling funds and marketing campaigns and using the funds of one firm to deliver on defendants' obligations to another firm, thus giving the appearance of success so that it could continue to obtain funds from more funds, right? So like, that's what this says. This happens all the time. We had this conversation about LSAs. Someone brought this question to our group, and the question was, listen, I'm running LSAs. I'll be curious what you think this person should do. They're doing really, really well. from a cost per conversion perspective, and not a cost per lead perspective, but actually a cost per conversion perspective.
And how are we defining conversion in this context?
This is signed up clients.
Signed clients, cost per case, cost
we have
per
a
client.
cost per client number that is really, really good for this firm. This is a PI firm that I believe was doing that at cost per client of $1,100. Okay, which all day long.
Is it all non-brand?
Well, you don't have a clue. I mean, in LSA, so like this is an example of systemically, you have no idea if this was branded or non-branded. And what happened in this instance, the firm didn't have access to the LSA accounts. They didn't have access to the spends. They didn't have access to anything. They just knew through another interface that these leads were coming in and that they were signing up at a cost-effective rate. Now, the thing that the group struggled with was twofold. Number one, what is this agency actually doing? Right? Like where are these leads actually coming from?
Not leads, cases. Where are these cases coming from?
Like so it's actually generating cases. They believe it's through LSAs, but they don't have access to it, right? They don't have access to anything. Additionally, if it is the law firm's advertising, because the intake was being done by the agency, by the third party.
Let's hope they're real.
Well, were those third party intakes, were they siphoning off some of the really good cases? Right? Was this turning into a lead generation opportunity to take, generic personal injury matters, pick out the truck accidents or the really large matters, and then resell those somewhere else? We have no idea. But Gyi, with those concerns, if this is working from a cost effectiveness perspective, what is the firm to do? What would you do?
I'd be like, show me the receipts, right? I want access to my LSAs. Why?
Yeah.
Because there's a chance that they're doing something that actually could be unethical that I would ultimately be responsible for paying for, here's the easy one. You think that, you're paying this company, right? Are they paying this company something?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a financial relationship between the firm and whoever the third party is.
Yeah.
This third party sending them cases. What happens if this third party is going out and going door to door in the hospital, being like, "Hey, here's this card, law firm for this card. Call them up."
You have a John Henson concern.
I have a John Henson concern.
Yeah. Which is the ethics of knowing what your agencies are doing in order to generate business, regardless of the cost effectiveness of that. That is a fair point.
I also have a second concern.
Yeah, go.
Because I don't know what they're doing, I have no reliable way of justifying that this is going to continue at this pace, and I am completely held hostage by their decision to either raise costs or to be like, hey, if you don't continue to play ball, I'm yanking all of this magic that I'm doing.
But that happens all the time, right?
No, it doesn't.
The pricing
Why does it happen all the time?
Because the vendors, I watched this happen at Avo. The vendors who realize that they're generating a ton of value at a low cost will raise their prices. That happens over and over again. Well, and that's what he said last time.
But again, with Avo what you're getting. You know what you're getting.
Do you?
Well, you tell next episode.
Traffic, lots of traffic. We've got tons of searches. I'm not trying to come across self-righteous here. This is our whole DNA: is be transparent about what you're doing, be accountable for what you're doing, and there shouldn't be an issue of like hiding. But I see these 30 MVA leads. $1,000 a lead or whatever. You see these Facebook ads of the guy in the fancy car and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? This guy might be anywhere from, this could, completely fabricated to solicitation violations to some really gross stuff. I mean, we saw examples of this in the mass torts market all the time. People sending texts to kids and stuff, just dirty stuff. Well, is that cool with you? Not to know, just turn a blind eye? Because guess what? It's not cool with the state bar. It's not cool with the FTC. It's not going to be cool with state AGs. And you can keep getting away with it until you don't. And it's not going to be cool with your bank account if you're paying per lead for some of that stuff.
Well, and it's not going to be cool when you're the plaintiff in a lawsuit. That's like, oh, wait a minute. your case was they actually are getting cases from it, so maybe not as bad as this. But that's the whole reason we're talking about it, is because it is very easy to commit fraud against someone who's turning a willfully ignorant eye to what people are doing on their behalf to generate them business.
So our end advice to this guy in our mastermind group was to go mystery shop your own LSA and see what happens. And mystery shop it with a high-end case, right? See what happens.
Tell me a little bit more about how the cases are coming into the firm. So there's a third party doing intake?
There's a third party doing intake, and they're coming in
as a virtual receptionist. They know who the third party is? They have a relationship with the third party?
Transfer. It's the third party is the agency.
Third party is the agency. There's an agency running the media and handling intake?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Especially, this is another thing. If you're going to put all of your eggs from media buying to intake to strategic direction, and it's a black box, I mean, they're essentially buying leads, right? Let's just call it what it is.
Sure.
They're buying leads.
I mean, that's why LSAs are.
They're an intermediary between the Google leads and whatever you want to call this black box. And so if you drew a diagram of this, it's like black box 1 feeding into black box 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
but it works.
That's a buyer beware. Well, it works until it doesn't. It works until you know what it reminds me of? Well, I don't even know. It's way too close to home.
Go. Let's get close to home. Come on.
It reminds me.
The upside is we can always edit it out if we're like, "Whoa, that's too close, buddy."
What's to prevent this third party from calling up or just feeding fake leads and cases into the system?
No, that's fair. I mean, is that the too close to home part?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, boy, oh boy, can I remove that negative review for you because I wrote it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round.